Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Community Unit District 300 Board of Education special meeting on this Tuesday evening, August 20th, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. Oh, it's over here this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I had, we don't have it on here, but I'm going to ask Dr. Scarpino to call the roll. Oh, sorry, I see roll call before the pledge.
Fiorentino.
Present.
Lamarca.
Present.
McNicholas. Miller.
Present.
Scarpino present. Stevens.
Present.
Zettler.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay, and we are working on getting Ms. McNicholas via phone.
Okay.
So hopefully she will be able to join us. She did have a work commitment. All right. I have no changes to the agenda, so I would like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Dr. Scarpino, please call the roll.
Stevens.
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Lamarca.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Scarpino. Aye. Zettler.
Aye.
6-0.
Okay, thank you. Board announcements and comments from the board, and then we will have comments from Mr. Williamson. If board members had any comments at this point, I would ask you to let me know. Yes, Ms. Settler.
I just want to thank everybody who worked on the contract. I know that it was a lot of work on everybody's part, and I'm proud to say that we have, I think, a team of people on both sides of the issue that are really good at working together and making sure that everybody's best interests are kept at heart. And it's nice to sit here to be on my very first contract, to be able to prove it and be happy about everything. So thank you.
Any other comments from the board before I make my own, Dr. Scarpino?
Sure.
I thought I saw this.
She was just going down the line.
Okay. Okay.
I thought I saw this.
Yeah. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So if you would prefer to pass at the moment,
No,
we'll
ma'am.
continue.
No,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
I'll say something. In visiting all the schools, we have fantastic employees, and I believe that that the contract that is going to be voted on tonight represents the respect that I and the board members have for all of the hard work and effort that everyone puts in. I just want to say thank you.
Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Williamson, I just want you to know that I'm very happy with this contract. I'm very happy in the way that you negotiated this contract, and it seems to be fair to all, and I hope this changes your opinion of where I stand with things, but good job.
I'm sorry.
He nodded.
He smiled. He didn't
He did.
nod.
He
smiled.
nodded.
Don't be surprised if we have a different seating arrangement at our next board meeting. Mrs. Lamarca.
The only thing I want to say is probably just a reflection of what Nancy said, that I'm just thrilled that this went well, and congratulations to everyone involved. I can only imagine how much work, sweat, toil, and tears, hopefully not tears, went into it. And, again, like Nancy said too, it's awesome to sit here for the first time and just be like, this is great. This is great. So kudos to everyone involved.
Mr. Fiorentino.
I'm just so grateful for Mike, his group, his team, and Mr. Hyde, your group and your team. The collaboration was just terrific, and it's not easy, as other board members have already commented on. It's many hours, And I would just say that fortunately, most of it seemed like there were agreements. And I feel very fortunate to be here, ready to do what I'm going to do, hearing what I heard. And, not everybody can say that across the country or even in the local area. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for all the collaboration. I place a huge amount of value on our teachers and all our staff. The focus, from what I heard, was truly around what our teachers can do in their classrooms for our great students. So thank you, all of you, for what you've done.
Ms. McNicholas is on the phone.
Hi, Mary.
Mary, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, having been around about, 6-7 years ago now, it was very refreshing to hear the tone of negotiations. I'm really proud of our district on all sides to see that this is the place that we're in. It was just really inspiring to see that it felt like all sides were working together for the best of our district. I'm really, really grateful that that's where we are now. And I was very pleased to have been a part of this. I could. I'm really excited to be able to ratify this today.
All right, we're moving towards that. Mr. Hyde, do you have comments before I make mine?
The same comments I'll share publicly as I've shared with both LEAD 300 members. They're part of their negotiating team, and also with the board. A sincere appreciation for their efforts and obviously the number of hours that are put into negotiations. While we meet quite regularly throughout the summer, this time to get to a place where we could finalize language and we had a lot of mutual interest, which was nice. But there's a lot of work that takes place outside of that. And the amount of time that Ms. Harkin puts into calculations so that we can run scenarios, not only to be prepared prior to a meeting, but to also be in a position where we can actually, as things are discussed in the room, in the moment, we can create scenarios and show how those would play out. Obviously, each one of the members of my team, whether it was Cara, Shelley, Berto, myself, and others who spent time in smaller group discussions to help address any questions or concerns that LEAD 300 is a large group, and it encompasses a lot of varied interests and our specific goals or specific job duties and responsibilities. So the amount of time we were able to spend with the LEAD negotiating team and their respective membership to help address questions or concerns and working conditions was incredibly powerful and positive. And I shared, in an email recently, a lot of times people look at an employee contract, especially when you talk about education contracts with collective bargaining units, and oftentimes the language can be interpreted as this is where there was a concern or this is where there was a problem and it had to be addressed in language. And yet, for the first time in a very long time, and I've been on multiple negotiating teams, I actually feel that we've made significant progress in addressing what are our common interests and how does this help define our way of work moving forward, to the point where we actually left a few topics remaining so that we could continue to work on those and show all of our teachers and all of our staff that we are committed to making this an exemplary place to work and educate children. So I'm very pleased with the overall progress and the fact that we were able to work together so amicably. So thank you.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments on behalf of the board. That it was important that we reflect on what we actually have accomplished over time, most recently over the last year. All District 300 high schools, Dundee Crown, Hampshire, and Jacobs, and this is, I'm talking on behalf of the board, this isn't coming from me, were named to U.S. News and World Report's list of best high schools in the nation. Perry Elementary School launched the Dream Academy, providing targeted academic, behavioral, and social supports for students in grade 1 through 5 at Perry who have been identified as at risk. I also want to add a little editorial here saying that this could not have been done without the cooperation and working together with our teachers, with the board, with our administration, and all of our staff and employees. All 11 District 300 schools that house preschool programs have earned the Gold Circle Quality Award through Accelerate Illinois, the state's quality recognition and improvement system for learning and development programs. That includes DeLacy, Dundee Highlands, Eastview, Gilbert's, Gulfview, Lake in the Hills, Lakewood Elementary, Liberty, Meadowdale, Perry, and Westfield Community School. Last year, District 300 was the first school in the state to have high school students earn college degrees at ECC, that's Elgin Community College, before receiving their high school diplomas. That could not be done without cooperation from our teachers and administrators. This district has expanded our dual language program into additional elementary schools, offering more students access to a research-based two-way language initiative designed to develop a high level of achievement in listening, speaking, reading, and writing with two languages. Again, this is another effort that we have in trying to address the needs of a variety of diversity within our students. The district has implemented STEM, S-T-E-M, soon to be STEAM, editorial comment, into all of our elementary buildings, providing over 9,000 children increased exposure to highly engaging interactive science, technology, engineering, and math labs. The district has developed pathway programs at each of our schools. And did we mention in here about having our first welder ever certified? The district has, the Pathways covers 13 different career fields, offering students opportunities to earn internship with local businesses and dual credit offerings through Elgin Community College. This is somewhat our way of saying these are, you know, I can't think of a better word than magnet schools, but these are schools that offer pathways that allow students that reside in a different part of our district but have an interest in a certain pathway to be able to go through those pathways. And District 300 has been honored with the Best Communities for Music Education designation from the NAM Foundation for its outstanding commitment to music education. So if you think of all of those things from preschool on through high school, I think that goes towards our mission of developing students that are ready for college or career readiness. So then my final comments that I actually have written down here. The new collective bargaining agreement represents all parties' commitment to District 300's essential mission to ensure all students are college or career ready upon graduation. I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to Lead 300 Mike Williamson. I still owe him an apology for the Pledge of Allegiance, but the Lead 300 leadership team, Superintendent Fred Hyde, and the District 300 leadership team for conducting negotiations with a keen focus on enhancing the district for all stakeholders while maintaining fiscal responsibility. I commend the negotiating teams for not only adhering to the highest professional standards while they were engaging in dialogue centered on the continuous improvement of student learning experiences, but it was uncontentious, it was professionally done, it didn't come into any need for mediation that we run into before, it didn't come into any need for a standstill in working, it didn't create a battle between administration and management. It was able to keep the focus on what's a good working environment for our staff, because it goes so far beyond just what happens in the classroom, and what's a good learning environment for our students, because again, that goes so far beyond the classroom, and what can we do to start meeting, not to start, but to continuing meeting needs of our students. Anyone have any other comments? And I want to thank Dr. Scarpino because that list that I read, he was the one who requested that maybe we should give this information out. Okay. So moving on, we have Mr. Mike Williamson to come up and speak to us. He has a very solemn face.
Michael Williamson, District 300 employee, a lead 300 president. According to Todd, based on occupancy, I currently live at 2550 Harnish Road, based on how much time I've been here. So, anyway, so the night before our ratification vote, which is always sort of an intense thing because you tend to hear the strongest voices for and against and for totally other things that people are like, I need you to deal with this now and not the contract. But the night before that, I got home and I took off my suit and I went down to put it on the suit rack, and my water heater had thrown its water all over the basement. And I had, I don't know, 250 emails to answer with people saying, I need to know the answer to this before I vote tomorrow. So in between wet, dry vacuuming the carpet, I would do a few emails here and a few emails there. And it was, what was interesting about it was, because of that, I completely relaxed and I stopped being stressed about the contract because I was, stressed about the floor that we were going to have to tear up the next morning, which we did, by the way. But it really kind of put things in perspective. And I think that's the most important single thing that came out of this negotiations is the putting of perspective on exactly where we have come as a district. And note that I use the word we. And so let me back up and say this, everybody's acting like we don't argue at negotiations. We still argue. The problem is it's Fred arguing with Shelley and Julie Kreppel arguing with me. Like, I actually got in trouble because I was too mean to Susan Harkin, which I was all proud of myself because I was like, yeah, I really got Susan Harkin. We pull in a caucus and my team turns around and looks at me. Well, not Pam. Pam was good with it. But my team looks at me and goes, my team looks at me and like, you were mean to her. And I'm like, well, it's negotiations. I told you that was going to happen. They're like, we like Susan. You don't get to be mean to her. 2 days later, we're in and Fred's questioning Shelley about something. And we go in a caucus and somebody says, you need to talk to Fred about that. He can't be mean to Shelley. Like, okay, this isn't going to work if we're all worried about everybody's feelings. I mean, like we're just not going to get there. Like that's the whole point is hurting feelings, except it's not. Okay, so except in reality, like that's not at all what we do. The whole point is bettering the education of every single child from every single community we have, and that's what we're all there to do. And I say that because our working conditions are the students' learning conditions. And if we can bring down people's stress, we can bring up their resilience so that they're resilient to handle the stress of the children, which is why we all worked on what we worked on. It's why we went through the topics that we went through. It's why we said there are things we're not going to get to. And as we've seen in the last 4 years, the enormous amount of things, and a lot of which Ann read, she skipped full day kindergarten, but a lot of which Ann read, I can't believe it. That was like 4 years ago. You got to go all the way back, Ann. Yeah.
You want me to put together a list for the last 4 years?
Yes, please.
I'll put together a list from when Fred came.
Okay.
Do you want to see everything that
Yeah, but you got to have that done
have
by the
accomplished?
time that I'm done with this speech.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Well,
the timer's not
If
over.
you don't know what that list is by now, Mike.
So, but anyway, so it really is in between this contract that we just finished and the last contract that we finished 4 years ago. There have been incredible changes in the district, things that we've all worked on together. And for me, I think probably the most powerful piece of this, not just the perspective gaining of seeing my team defend Susan and my team say, why do they question each other like that? And my team pushing to say, but we're all here doing this because, as Joe referenced earlier, that wasn't necessarily where we were a long time ago. I'm still not going to give Joe the satisfaction of me saying, you're right, Joe. But you know what? Wait till your retirement speech that I give. You'll get, yeah. Because he keeps asking me, what are you going to say when I retire? I don't know yet. I always make those up on the fly. I pretend I practice them. But when we look at all of the things that we've accomplished and we look at this contract and say, okay, of course we couldn't get to everything. Of course, there are hundreds of little things that need to be looked at. You know, there's things I need to talk to Fred about tonight after we're done. I mean, I still need to talk to Iberto about giving Fred the wrong email for the one member of the team earlier, so we emailed a totally different Kendra than we were supposed to. I thought he was going to say something. But, you know, the things that we're still accomplishing and the relationship that we have, the stand of the day is, what do we need to look at next? What do we need to accomplish next? And how do we make that happen, whether it's through letter of agreement, whether it's through memorandum of understanding, whether it's we try a pilot because we just don't know if this works and we're not willing to release employees 6 months after we hire them because we're not sure if this will even work. The fact that we've gotten to a place that that's where we're all capable of being, and the fact that everybody on board, from all of my people to all of Fred's people to all of you to all of Michelle's people, right? The fact that we're all in a place where we can say we're all going to May together and we're all making the best possibilities and finding dreams for all of these kids, well, that's a really different place to be in. And I'm glad you're here on the phone, Mary, because, you know, as she said, 7 years ago, we were all in a very different place. And Mary getting elected to the board, even though she never attended the day of school on Friday ever, that's true, you can look it up. Mary getting elected to the board for us was a really big deal because Mary had seen as a student what went on, and have Mary here on the board to see how far we've come. I'm just very proud of that. Not all of my members of my team could be here tonight. Julie Kreppel was threatening to be here even though she had surgery this afternoon. I was a little worried she'd roll in on a scooter still on whatever medication she was on. You know, Pam Johnson and Crystal Zabo are here. These are people who gave up their entire summer in order to make this happen, and I can't thank them all enough, as well as all of you, and as well as in particular Fred's team, Fred, Susan Harkin, Cara Vicente, Berta Mora, Shelley Nacky, Colleen O'Keefe. I don't think I missed anybody. I think I got everybody. If I didn't, I didn't mean it. But that group of people and the work we've all done and the conversations that occurred, that even if they didn't get put in language, are there to make sure that we guide whatever we're doing with special ed or whatever we're doing with academics or whatever we're doing with HR practices forward. That's where we really are now. And I sincerely hope we figure out at some point how to make sure we can keep it, because this is a very cool place to be right now. And I am proud as all get out to turn in the highest ratification vote in Lead 300's history at 89.35%. Thank you.
Michelle, you're not on the agenda, but did you want to add anything? Because we are also voting on Dessa's contract. Okay. Okay. We'll make sure that that. Okay. We're going to move on then to public participation, and we have one gentleman who has signed up, Mr. Mike Tennis from Sleepy Hollow. You know the routine. You're over the age of 18. Please state your name, your address, and please limit your minutes to 5. And as always, we have a written comment sheet. There we go.
Thank you.
I do want to point out that it is not the habit of the board to interact in dialogue with public participation, though we may pass things on, but we usually do not enter into dialogue.
My name is Mike Tennis from Sleepy Hollow. My purpose this evening is to provide a taxpayer perspective on 2 proposed union contracts for professional education personnel and educational support personnel while fairly compensating them. First, regarding the proposed lead contract duration and format. The previous contract was a 4-year deal, which media described as placing the district within the mid-salary range compared to neighboring school districts. The proposed contract calls for a 3-year deal maintaining the traditional step and lane experience and education format. Pay-for-performance concepts have not been integrated into the contract for student achievement. A 3-year deal seems appropriate given the tight labor market and strong economy. Adding a 4th year to a proposed sweetheart contract for teachers would be unwise. The previous contract provided educators 4% raises each of 4 years, 2% step and 2% base pay increases. The average CPI for those 4 years was only 1.8%, a win for educators. The proposed contract provides an additional 4% each year over the next 3 years, even though inflation remains tame. It also allows 6% spiking for 4 years, aggravating state unfunded pensions. It gives an extra step for extra pay for many jobs going from 3 to 4 steps. The previous contract provided exceptional insurance benefits for health care, with the district contributing 80% or 70% for family coverage. Yet significant absenteeism has been a problem, causing employment of full-time substitute teachers to cover classes. The proposed contract thankfully addresses excessive absenteeism of over 12 sick days with progressive discipline. It gives retiring teachers a 20% increase to $600 for each year of service in a lump sum payment in their health reimbursement account. It provides wellness screening. Thankfully, non-screeners pay an additional $20 per month. It pays the employee share plus 2% into an HRA or HSA where 2 members work in district. All this for 181 contractual days of service. Educators with an 11-week summer break earn on average about $60,000, working about 70% of the time, 1,448 hours, versus full-time 2,080 hours yearly for private sector workers. Second, regarding a 1-year extension of the DESA contract, increasing rates for some, 5% or more, is understandable in a tight labor market. What seems inappropriate is the addition of another step from 20 to 21 years. While support staff productivity after 20 years warrant continuing pay increases. Property taxes fund 66% of the district's expenses, primarily for these contracts. Taxpayers also fund the educator pensions through income taxes. The tentative budget indicates district salaries and benefits will increase $10.3 million, with salaries up 5% and benefits up 7.7%. These expenses will grow from 65.7% to 71.5% of the district's expenses, excluding capital outlays, and cannot be sustained. Taxpayers cannot afford to continue financing the district's debt and fund richer educator contracts. It is unsustainable. Reopen educator contract negotiations. When the board considers these 2 contracts, in addition to being fair to students, parents, and teachers, what we haven't heard tonight is don't forget, you also represent the taxpayers who pay for your actions. Little change in tone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We are now at item 6.1. I need a motion to approve the LEAD, L-E-A-D, capital letters, contract for July 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second, and Dr. Scarpino, please call the roll.
Zettler,
Yes.
Miller,
Sure, hold off the roll call. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just like to respond to Mike.
No.
What?
Okay.
Some of the things you talk about I understand where I came from. But I also want to indicate that some of the things you talk about are state law, and we have nothing to do with it. I also think you need to be aware that teachers who are currently hired are not under the same pension system that teachers who were hired years ago are. And this district has operated with a referendum passed in 2006 and said then that we would ask for another referendum in 2011, which we did not. And we have nothing on our agenda that points to another referendum, and we are politically sound. And I think that's something you need to look at. We are able to handle our debt. We are able to have an appropriate fund balance, and we're able to have labor peace by the contracts that we're negotiating. And I just need to say that there's two sides to that story. Thank you.
Perhaps that would be a discussion to raise in the Finance Committee meeting, when you can have more of a detailed discussion on the items. Any other discussion before we call for a vote? Yes.
Just one quick, I just want to point out that all of us are taxpayers also. So,
Mr. Fiorentino? No? Okay. Roll call.
Zettler,
yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stevens,
Aye.
Scarpino, aye. McNicholas,
Aye.
Lamarca,
Aye.
Fiorentino.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item 6.2, I need a motion. I need a motion to approve the DESA contract and memo of understanding.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, Dr. Scarpino, please call the roll.
Scarpino, aye. Fiorentino,
Aye.
Zettler,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
McNicholas,
Aye.
Lamarca.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Could I vote?
I'm sorry. I apologize. Stevens,
Aye.
I apologize, sir. 7-0. Motion passes.
Any other,
My finger got in the way. It did. You ought to see this. It got in the way. I'm sorry.
okay, do we have any other business any other comments? How about a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.